Hey, Gabriel,
Hey, Gabriel Jose.
where are we today?
I'm in San Francisco where it's cold. It's about 65 degrees. It's not great, but
It's
I'll have
not
the light
great.
jacket on go out later, so it's fine.
Okay, now come on, let's not lie. You have to actually just wear a hoodie and a light jacket because you don't know how the weather is going to be changing.
That's fair.
But but if you're in a city like Chicago, like a real city, is like your weather could be like close to 0 degrees Fahrenheit. And at that point it doesn't matter because you're already like just wearing 5 layers of clothes. So it doesn't matter if it's going to be like -1, -2, -10. You're prepared for all of that.
It's true. You are prepared.
Yeah, and I have to say that I'm surviving it more than I expected. Yeah, I see that Salva is not agreeing with me. Salva is not in agreement.
Cold weather too.
Yeah, he likes cold weather too. He's like jealous, actually. No, except the only weird thing is like my eyes start crying when it gets like really cold. It's like, what is happening here? This shouldn't be happening. But everything else is fine. It's just absolutely fine, I guess. The only thing that I'm missing, come on, let's just be honest, is that we have a podcast about like watching cinema that you do indoors, and the other part is about like going to dive bars that they're always open.
Always open, and we almost always went outside. So
yeah. So I mean, the thing is like if you're probably like being on the back patio is not like the best moment of the year for doing that, but just staying indoor, we are not smokers, so doesn't matter. So even like the other day, it was like 10 degrees, and I walked for an hour for just going to a couple of dive bars to keep exploring.
You sound like a masochist to me, but
I have a passion, dude. I have a passion. And now when I say it out loud, 10 degrees and walking for an hour under the call for getting alcohol, it makes me sound like I have a problem.
What is the passion? The walking or the dive bar?
I think there is a combination of both. It's like I'm fine with walking for going to a dive bar.
Okay, that's fair.
And I'm fine with walking, let's be honest.
Okay.
Yeah. So, besides facing potential hypothermia, what did we watch this week?
We went back to the world of David Lynch, which I actually didn't think about. We spent, 40 hours in Twin Peaks just 6 months ago, and we were still like, hey, let's watch another David Lynch film that we've already seen. So we watched Lost Highway, which I couldn't find to stream anywhere.
Oh, it wasn't anywhere?
I looked everywhere. I even logged onto my husband's iPad trying to figure out how Apple products work because I have no idea. And it's not even available there. I checked the library, nothing.
What did you watch it at the end?
So after searching for my DVD, which I knew was lost, I don't know why I was looking for it. I haven't seen it in like 5 years. My husband actually found it labeled in Spanish, the full movie on YouTube in English with Spanish subtitles. So I watched it for free at the end of the day.
Wow. Okay, that's surprising. Yeah, no, glad to hear that you found it. Yeah, I used the DVD that you gave me, that it was a steel wrap, and it was a bit disappointing. I mean, it was a steel wrap because I think that we watched. You also lent me at that point Mulholland Drive, and I rewatched Mulholland Drive, and we will talk about it later. But they have similitudes, and for me, that Mulholland Drive is a way better movie than Lost Highway.
Agreed. And I would also have liked a list of ways to
Correct.
figure out the movie.
Correct. So it was like, I was like very disappointed when I opened like the DVD box, and it's like, how am I going to be understanding this David Lynch movie if David Lynch is not giving me tips while understanding it?
Very cryptic tips that don't help at all. Yeah, it's not like a spoiler alert. It's not like in Mulholland Drive. One of the tips was like, everything was a dream. Mm-hmm. Oh, God.
But in any case, this was my pick, if I recall correctly. And I think that the reason why I wanted to watch something by David Lynch is because David Lynch likes to build these walls or these situations around upcoming danger or upcoming something bad. It's a bit more of portraying like something mostly perfect, that when you start to stretching it out, you can start checking the seams like looking through the scenes, and there is something bad behind. Things are not as perfect. So he likes to just display whatever kind of American dream reality, or like the American kind of lifestyle, and just pulling from it until things start becoming weirder and weirder. And it reminded me some kind of way to the musical that I was telling you about, like the new production of Oklahoma, about like from the beginning that there is some kind of incipient, or a coming violence, a coming tragedy. And it's not like a Greek tragedy, it's a bit more about like just discomfort. And I think that David Lynch is like the perfect director for just doing this kind of slow boiling of discomfort.
I completely agree, and I felt like Lost Highway was David Lynch doing dress rehearsals for Mulholland Drive. Like Correct. He was expecting this direction he was moving into, like metaphor and like characters not really being characters but representing something happening in lives. And this is the rough draft. This is the TikTok he didn't publish, and he nailed that dance, and he published Mulholland Drive. Yeah,
and now he's going to just create his own YouTube channel. So as this was my pick, and you already like just gave like some insight, what is this movie about?
This is tricky. There are two narratives.
Okay, what happens in this movie?
Okay,
what happens on the screen?
Fred Madison and Renee Madison, played by Bill Pullman and Patricia Arquette. The film starts out with them. They're a married couple. He's a musician. They start to find VHSs left on their steps every morning. They live in a very nice house in LA. He's a musician, blah, blah, blah. She never really talks about what she does. And the videos that are being left, at first it's just like a video of the outside of their house, and then it's a video of them sleeping, and then like it's very disturbing. There's like a weirdness in their marriage. Like there doesn't seem to be tension, but there's no closeness, there's no intimacy, and it's like they try to have sex and it doesn't work, and he's having bad dreams. He's having like
nightmares.
Weird dreams about like not being able to find her in the house and blah blah blah.
Yeah, and even like just waking up next to her and she being someone else.
Yes, the face of a man actually, which is interesting. So the final video that we see them get, Renee's actually not in the shot. It doesn't say where she is, but Fred watches the video alone, and it's a video of him next to her body, which seems to be torn in two, and she's murdered. We very quickly see him get convicted and sentenced to prison. He goes to prison, and then
I like that you left out like two details that for me is like I love these two situations because they're like the most Lynchian stuff. Well, besides like what happens in prison, that is like the opening about like what triggers the whole story.
The highway, like you mean the just driving down the highway?
No. Well, I mean you see that in the opening, and with the credits coming up, but it's that then the next thing that it happens is that someone goes to the buzzer in Bill Pullman's house, and he says Dick Logan is dead, and no one has called. They don't see anyone. And the other part is that when they go to the party to Renee's friends, Andre, I think that it was Andy or something.
Oh, that's right.
And he actually sees a guy that looks like the guy on the nightmare that he had. Like Renee's face, he was replaced with this guy's face. And the guy tells him, call me, I'm in your house.
Yeah, and so Bill Pullman calls his house and the guy picks up, and it's very disturbing and very weird. The guy is called, he never gets a name, he's called the Mystery Man. He speaks exclusively in like cryptic ways.
He speaks in Lynchian.
Yes, and it's very messed up, and it disturbs Fred deeply. Like he actually gets upset and then tells his wife like your friends are fucked up, which I think plays into my interpretation.
Sure.
That we'll talk about. So Fred gets put in prison where he stares at a bad light that sounds like the electric chair that he might be going to, and then he morphs into a young mechanic named Pete. And so the prison's like, who the fuck is this? Why is he in there, and where is Fred? Pete's parents come up and they take him home. And clearly something supernatural or weird happened, but they never address it.
Who's the father? Because the father was like a famous actor.
Yes, I recognized him instantly. Gary Busey.
Gary Busey, that was it.
Yeah.
I was like, yeah. Because when we were watching it, I was watching it with a friend, and my friend was like, "What? Gary Busey's in this movie?" He's like, "Wait, who? Why?"
And
Until I connected it.
And kind of good. Like, not at all the insane Gary Busey that was on reality 20 years later.
That's true. That's a really fair point. This was a bit more like control, like self-control.
So Pete is like trying to get back into his life. He ends up not reconnecting. He connects with his girlfriend, his friends. He starts up his job at a mechanic. There's an interesting character that's like a powerful mafia guy that really trusts him as a mechanic. At one point,
Mr. Laurent.
Isn't it Mr. A?
Mr. Laurent. He's like Eddie, but he's Eddie stands for Dick.
Yeah. So he takes him on this like ride in his car, and somebody tailgates him, and he loses his shit, and he beats this man to death, and has one of the funniest monologues I've ever seen in a David Lynch film.
Yeah, I find it hilarious. Yeah.
About him, where he's like, "Last year, 50,000 Americans died because of people like you doing tailgating," and he's like, as he's like beating him, he's like, "Tell me you're gonna get a car manual and learn how to drive." It's a funny.
It's like when traffic was doing like those super aggressive, like this is your brain in drugs after getting into an accident, but even more aggressive. This is your brain, and this is your brain after I hit it with a can because you're not respecting the rules.
And he clearly cared about Pete. Like he was like, he apologized to the mechanic, Pete, and he's like, "I'm sorry, but one thing I can't stand by is tailgating," which it's just a very funny scene. Disturbing as fuck, but funny.
Yeah.
So when the Mr. A comes back, he's with a beautiful woman that looks exactly like Renee. Her name is it Ashley? Alice Wakefield.
Mm-hmm.
So Alice and Pete start up an illicit affair. They fall in love. And at this point, a lot happens. And I think I'm not going to be able to track this. Where would you take the synopsis from here?
I would say that basically Mr. Ed starts suspecting of the romance, so they plan to run away. And for running away, they decide to rob like a porn producer that is actually Andy, the friend that in the first part of the movie they go to the party to.
And Andy is the first character to have the same name in both narratives. So like,
that's true. That's a good point. Yeah.
Where those stories are.
Is the nexus.
Together.
Yeah. And at that point, basically, we discovered that Alice like worked for Andy like as a porn actress. So she's basically going to be like distracting him, and then he's going to be like stealing the money in between. The classic stuff, but things go wrong and they murder him. So when they're running away after a couple of sentences...
By an accident. It was an accidental murder.
It was an accident, but Patricia Arquette's character is like pretty clear about like, we didn't kill it. You kill it. So we start seeing like another side of her. We start like seeing that she really enjoys like the porn stint that she did. So we're starting to see like a bit more of a darker side to the character, and they run away.
It's interesting because the second he agrees to rob the guy, Alice's personality changes immediately, and she starts to treat him at first just like with just a little bit crude, and then rude, and then she's basically contemptuous of him. It's a very interesting switch in her performance, and I was actually quite impressed with her in this.
Yeah. No, she does a good job. She actually does like almost 3 characters.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and we can go later about like the metaphorical, like meaning of all of this and everything. But then they actually start like driving away. The police start chasing them.
They drive to go to what's called a fence in like mafia terms, where they're gonna sell all the stuff they stole and get like passports and leave the country and run away and be together. But the house where the fence is out in the desert, which happens to be the house that we saw in a couple like beautifully metaphorical scenes, transition scenes in the past. They end up having passionate sex in the dirt in front of the house, and then, well, the movie's super old. And then he says how much he wants her, and then she stands up and says, "You will never have me," and walks away. And then he turns back into Bill Pullman.
Yep. And then we see that the guy that was inside that hat is the mystery man.
Mystery Man, yeah.
Yeah.
And it seems like Bill Pullman has become friends with Mystery Man at this point, and they kind of gang up on somebody else that he's having sex with, and Mystery Man kills him, and they make him watch the porn with Alice in it before they kill him. It just gets very Lynchian at this point. I don't even know if it's worth like trying to explain all of these details.
Right.
And we were actually talking about before how many details David Lynch puts in his films. It's kind of exhausting.
Yeah. So basically, they killed Big Logant.
Yes.
Let's summarize everything. They kill him, and then he actually runs away with the car. The police is chasing him, and then he goes back to his house, and he calls to the buzzer, and he says, "Dear Logant is dead." And then he drives away while the police is chasing them. So the beginning is the end, and the end is the beginning.
Yes. What a synopsis. Good Lord.
Yep.
And there's a lot that we left out, but
yeah,
this is
and that's pretty much it. So, what do you think? Did you like it?
I'm surprising myself and saying not that much this time. Like, I always enjoy going back into the worlds that David Lynch creates. I feel like it's almost, or maybe as strong as Almodovar. We had this discussion last week. Like, he creates these universes with their own style, and I enjoy the sense of menace. I enjoy not like understanding the film, and there are a lot of like interesting motifs, like technology. There's heavy use of technology, which was kind of surprising because like having a cell phone in a David Lynch movie was like kind of shocking to me. I was like, we always deal with like the rotary telephones. And I think there was a lot he was trying to say about technology and how it kind of equates to evil. And if you look at all like the authentic interactions people had, they were always in person, whereas if it was via telephone, it was like shady shit going down. And then also I have a theory about what the Mystery Man meant and why we switched narratives. I don't know how deep we want to go because I'm not sure it's that interesting.
No, I think that we should go. Because I can tell you that I think that I watched this movie after I watched Mulholland Drive. And for me, is that this, as you say, is a dress rehearsal for Mulholland Drive. Is that you can see like topics of identity, topics of just running away from something bad that happened, or just imagining like a different narrative for your own life.
Yeah.
And so I feel it's like, okay, you're using like very similar resources, but I think that Mulholland Drive is like way more rounded. I think that is like, is that what you're trying to say. Here is still a mystery to me how this didn't get. I mean, it makes sense that it didn't get like accepted for TV because, like, dude, if you're going to be like making us half of the season is a dream, just fuck you. We don't want that shit.
Which is that what you think it is? Like the Pete narrative, the Pete and Alice narrative is a dream?
Oh, you mean like the no. I think that is the Pete and Alice. Yeah, I think that is like basically like him trying to rehearse like a different life, but at the same time, I mean, I can tell you my interpretation. My interpretation is that he is actually going crazy with jealousy. Is that this is in a marriage that he feels like trapped, is not going anywhere, is that they're getting like more and more distant, and he starts like just getting like jealousy attacks. I don't know if the tapes are like real or not, but he's imagining like this kind of threat on top of them. But I think that he is the danger. He is actually like the one that is having this kind of boiling rage inside him until it explodes. And then he starts like imagining like a different life that he could have lived. where this wouldn't have happened. But then it actually introduces that his wife as a bit more of a recurring factor, a bit more. It's like, I love her, but at the same time, it's like he's going to be like connecting, as you said, with Andy, and just portraying like that kind of jealousy into, it's like, this is something that's it. It's like, I'm going to be like projecting that it's like your friends are fucked up. It's like, I'm going to be assuming that your friends are always going to be like something present that is going to be like screwing you, and me, I'm always going to feel like betrayed by that, and I'm going to be like imagining everything. But here is like materializing it in this giant screen with the porn as he enjoyed it. He's actually just displaying it directly, when in the other ones it's a bit more of insinuations, but there is no confirmation that she did anything wrong.
I agree. So my interpretation is that the mechanic thing is all a dream. I think that he does get super jealous. It's hinted at early on when she doesn't want to go see him perform, but he calls home and she doesn't answer, that maybe she's cheating on him. I don't know if she was actually doing porn or whatever, or if that's what he was building in the dream to like...
Try to explain. Justify.
And I think the mystery man basically was the personification of evil. And so we find out that it was the mystery man recording them. And as the tapes get closer and closer into their house, I think that's representative of him and his, like, subconsciously, he's getting ready to murder her. And as they go into the house, it happens. And then he has to create this dream where Pete's relationship with Alice is everything that he wants his marriage to be. They have steamy sex, they have passion, they want to run away together, they want to be together. So as much
but
as...
it's not. I mean, it's like he cannot actually create this happy ending, because again, like, the mystery man is there, and it also represents like his descent into madness and embracing the rage that he has inside. And it is true that the character of Alice, she actually does a turn that is like, you are evil, and it's like, it's a way of just trying to justify again killing her, or, you know, like, I want you, it's like, you cannot have me, and he would have murdered her.
And just like I was saying about him wanting to be Pete's not really that bad of a guy. He was kind of convinced into doing this like robbery so he could be with his love, but he's more of this innocent, like, he's a victim of his circumstances, and that's who Fred, Bill Pullman, is trying to convince himself that he is. And it's all just his mind trying to either justify or figure out why he did whatever, the murder, actually.
Yeah, so, I mean, the thing is, I remember like having exactly like these thoughts in my brain, and when I watched it this time, it's like, yeah, well, here we go to the dream part, you know, and then just coming back and just closing everything, and almost like I just using the dream of this is like what my life, I would like my life to have been, is like almost like a justification or a trigger for everything else, like the Dick Lohantis death.
So, I completely agree with you, and it just felt disappointing that the explanation is a large part of this is a dream, because David Lynch is more than that. So I appreciated like the metaphorical aspects, whatever they mean. You can interpret them many different ways. The videotapes, the mystery man.
Yeah, but Mulholland Drive. But once again, sorry, it's like, sorry to interrupt, but it's like we both love Mulholland Drive, and half of the movie, 80% of the movie is a dream.
Yeah, but there's so much more to Mulholland Drive, in my opinion, than this film. But there are aspects that, for me, elevated into that, like, this is better than your normal film. It'll make me think. I was interested enough to watch some analyses afterward to find out what other people think it means, which doesn't happen with, like, your solid average film in theaters. So, I don't even know just for this.
No. I think that's completely fair. You know, I was just trying to say that half of the movie being a dream doesn't have to be like necessarily bad.
That's true. Yes.
You know, because there are other examples, even like from David Lynch, that is like half of the movie is a dream and is good, because I think that metaphorically is way better connected.
Yeah, you're completely right, and my fear is that this comes off as more Jacob's Ladder than Mulholland Drive, and I'm not a fan of Jacob's Ladder. Like, I feel that was a little... and I don't ever think of David Lynch as cheap. This film just didn't feel like his best work to me. I think maybe I feel like I feel like you did about this film. How to say this? What you felt about Wild at Heart is what I feel about this film.
Wow. Wow.
I liked Wild at Heart.
Oh my God. Okay. Wow. I mean, honestly, we gave it the same score, you and me, to Wild at Heart.
But I still liked it more.
Well, you like it more than me, but for me it was like this. This is a. It's not like you try to do something and the landing is not perfect. It's like you try to do something you shouldn't have tried. You shouldn't. That's it. It's like don't do it.
That's okay. That's an opinion.
I mean, it was like a. I mean, the only thing that it was good, if I recall correctly, was William Dafoe.
Yeah, I was just thinking about him touching
Laura Dern.
Laura Dern inappropriately in the hotel room. Oh, that was such a good scene.
Yeah, that part is good, and the thing is, that part is like the weird part, like the really Lynchian weird part. The rest of the movie is weird, but it's like weird in a very campy way. Wild at Heart.
Yeah, it was definitely like an experiment for him. For me, the experiment was interesting. For you, less though.
No, for me, it was a bit more like I know where this is going. And Blue Velvet, I think that is like a way better movie than Wild at Heart.
And that's an excellent spectrum to look at. Like Blue Velvet is pretty straightforward storytelling with a creepy villain and this dirty underbelly of a small town, and then you have Mulholland Drive, which is full on metaphor.
Yeah.
And Lost Highway is just right in the middle of the two.
I would say that it's a bit closer to Mulholland Drive, but at the same time, it's like just missing the sophistication on the metaphorical sense. It's more like you try to be like more straightforward like Blue Velvet, but at the same time you are not, and then at the end it's not so elevated as, for example, like the scene on the Silence Theater. That's incredible. It's like 5 minutes in Mulholland Drive, and it's incredible about like conveying like everything that is going on. It has like such a weight, that is like there is no scene in this movie. I remember like when I watched it the first time and I felt like pretty shocked, and it's like call me, I'm at your house, and it's a bit that feeling of discomfort, this like something bad happening there and not knowing exactly what it is. But then you go to Mulholland Drive and you see like the scene on the diner, and it's like holy shit, this is like walls ahead from what it is with that scene.
And it's hard because like this movie came out in 1997. If I went to the theater and I wasn't 14, I had a little bit more life experience, I think I would have been blown away by this movie. But then like Mulholland Drive coming out 4 years later, and it's like you can't not talk about these two films next to each other, and I feel like it's not fair to Lost Highway, even though I'm not Lost Highway's biggest fan.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I think that it's a movie that by itself, if it was in a different decade than Mulholland Drive, it would be fine. But it's like just doing them like back to back. As you said, it's a dress rehearsal. It's a bit more. It's like, hey, I'm just testing the waters. Could this fly? If this fly, I may do a TV show about this. It's almost like, for example, imagine that the previous movie to Twin Peaks, it was something about like a small town where a sweetheart is murdered, and there is like a lot of stuff like Blue Velvet.
That's exactly what I was thinking.
But the thing is, like, I think that Blue Velvet holds its weight by itself, and I think.
100%.
Yeah, and I think that this one is a bit more of a. It's not bad, but it's pretty hard to actually separate you from Mulholland Drive.
And then we were talking about this before we started recording. Like this film is kind of work, and I'm willing to do the work if the payoff is there. So like Mulholland Drive, sure. I'm not sure the amount of work David Lynch asked me to put in is worth the payoff. I don't know.
I'm not sure, man. That's a really good question. I'm not sure. We don't have to go into the questions yet, but I don't regret watching it, and I think that I will watch it again. But not tomorrow, because it's true that it feels a bit like work, but it feels like work from the perspective that I'd rather be doing this work for Mulholland Drive.
Yes, I completely agree. And I would also watch the film again. I don't know why.
Yeah. I mean, but it's like, I agree with you. It's like, for me, it was a bit more of just knowing what is going to happen, knowing that there is like such a big difference on the story, That is like, it almost feels like two parallel stories. It's like my friend and me, we didn't discuss too much about it, but it was like someone that doesn't know where this is going, how they're going to be like feeling. Because I think that he says something like when they detained him about like seeing like the video about like how he married, like, God, that was weird. And he's like, wait a second. Just wait a second. We're going to talk about weird. Exactly, and then you're going to be like, what the heck is going on? It's almost like that sentence of Tyler Durden. It's not Tyler Durden. It's like it's the narrator. What is the name that they give to the narrator? Rupert. Yeah, it's when Rupert says like when they actually discovered that it's like they are the same person, and it's like, well, audience, just strap your seatbelts. There is something like that. It's exactly that. When they're like start like seeing like the flickering of the light, it's like, well, audience, just strap your seatbelts. We're going on for a bumpy ride.
And any ride I feel like David Lynch wants to take me on, I'll be willing to do it. It's so weird. I feel the need to defend this and explain why I didn't like it. I don't. Maybe it's just because I love David Lynch so much.
I'm just surprised that you didn't like it. Didn't you like the music, like the ambience that they built?
Yes, the music was fantastic with the exception of the starting credits and the ending credits, which I thought he just went off the rails with that like loud
David Bowie.
I would have to go back and look, but I thought this doesn't match. This is too much. I don't like this, and usually his music is very, very like apt.
I'm deranged. That's David Bowie. Yeah.
I've never been a David Bowie fan.
And dear listeners, this is the end of our podcast. Okay.
The final episode.
Yeah, hope you enjoyed it. Yep, there are like worse ways to go. Should we go over the questions?
Let's do it.
All right. So I think that we already went over this, but would you watch it again?
Yeah, I would.
Okay. Would you watch it tomorrow again?
No, but I would even watch it in 6 months. It doesn't need to be 5 years. Like, there's enough there to digest and pick apart.
Yeah. When was the last time that you watched it?
Probably when I recommended it to you, which would have been 7-8 years ago.
Yeah, sure. When you gifted it to me, no?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, I think that it was like probably 13 years ago or something. It was like before I moved here, and then I didn't watch it again. It's like I talked with you because I remember it like pretty fresh. It created like a really big impression in me. So yeah, so I would watch it again. Probably in 3 to 6 months, it will be fine. Not less than 3 months, that's for sure. Would you recommend this?
Yes. I mean, if somebody has seen all of like the big stuff, like Eraserhead, Blue Velvet, Mulholland Drive, 40 hours of Twin Peaks, I would be like, check this out. It's worth a watch. That's how I would recommend it.
I'm pretty torn about answering this, because the thing is that you already mentioned it, but it's like if someone recommends, like, hey, just recommend me like a David Lynch movie, like Mulholland Drive, or Blue Velvet, or even have you watched Twin Peaks? Firewalk with Me. Even I recommend that to my friend. He's like, oh, I still have to watch Firewalk with Me because I remember watching Twin Peaks. He's like, just watch it. It's better than you expect for being like a tying kind of thing.
You know the answer is yes to this. In the right situation, you would recommend this. Not your parents. There's a lot of porn in it. Not as much as New, which I watched all of them.
True. That's fair, but I'm just saying that it being so similar to Mulholland Drive, the reason for me recommending this is that if someone tells me, I already watched Mulholland Drive, tell me something else from David Lynch. And the two options are this and Wild at Heart. I will like Lost Highway, 100%.
I think I'd probably recommend this before Wild at Heart, but only because this is the style and tone that I really love David Lynch for. So.
Alright, so let me just like do other comparison. Well, you already said that you like it that much, but I was thinking about like if someone were to say Elephant Man or this.
What about Inland Empire or this?
I never watched Inland Empire. Everyone told me that it was like so freaking weird that it's like, I think that I could.
It's boring as hell, but it goes like in that spectrum we talked about. Like Mulholland Drive is over here all the way to the right. It goes, woo! Just breaks the meter.
Isn't there like part of the story where they're like dressed up as giant bunnies?
Yeah, several times throughout that it looks like you're looking through a security camera in the side of a living room, and it's just like humans dressed as bunnies watching TV or like standing up and doing. They never talk, and it just keeps going back to the bunnies. It's bizarre.
So it's like those scenes of the third season of Twin Peaks: The Return, when this like this makes no sense. It's super cool to watch, but this makes no fucking sense, and I don't think that it's going anywhere.
But way, way less interesting, beautiful, or sophisticated. It's like grainy black and white footage. It's weird.
Weird and in a non-interesting way. Okay.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Yeah, no, you're right. I would still recommend this. You know, if someone tells me should I watch Lost Highway, if someone like asks me point blank, definitely. And in some circumstances, if someone asks me, say, tell me another movie like Mulholland Drive, I may still say,
really stretching, looking for specific situations.
I mean, I'm just saying that it's like on other movies, it's like pretty clear about like, hey, recommend me. For example, is that we talk about Bullets Over Broadway. It's like I would say, tell me a comedy. It's like if I actually think about this title in that second, I would be like Bullets Over Broadway. I wouldn't hesitate a single second, you know. But it's similar to the parallel mother situation about like. If someone asks me, recommend me a Almodovar movie, I said, yeah, I'm going to recommend you 5 of them. That's not going to be one of them.
Okay,
It's the situation here. So I'm yes, asterisk, let's just say.
All right.
Would you remember it?
Yeah, not all the details, but I remembered Pete, I remembered Bill, I remembered the porn scenes, I remembered Marilyn Manson. Yes.
Yeah, for me, yes. I mean, I could actually just like say some of the words, like over the movie Dick Lavant is dead, Call Me, I'm at your house. It's, I don't know, it's very iconic and well made, you know, and besides that, like the story, albeit it's weird, it's like, you know, that it's okay, he goes to prison, he changes into something else, then he reverts, you know, and then he's the one that is still Lavant is dead. That's it. So yeah, it's hard not to remember, like at least like the main points of the movie. Is there anything artistic about it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, as we've said 9 times, it feels like a rough draft, but it's the vision is there. He needed to refine it, but there's originality and cool stuff in this. Yes.
Yeah. The only thing that, well, I agree that it's like just the style, everything, you know, how he approaches like the world building. I think that is great. I think that is like he's the only director that can do this in this kind of way and just making it look so cool. Like the music, I really liked it. I'm sorry, I thought that it's like, okay, this is a bit more, and we can connect to the next question. That is like this is more timely. When it comes to actually like the soundtrack, you really want to hook it into right now instead of just using Angelo Badalamenti for creating the environment. That is what he usually does in his work. Because the soundtrack is also from Angelo Badalamenti, no? No. Yes? Twin Peaks?
I don't know. I liked it though.
Yeah, sorry, I need to yeah, Angelo Badalamenti. Yeah, they collaborated like in most of the movies. But overall, aesthetically, is great. It doesn't get to the point of when you see things in Mulholland Drive, everything is so iconic. Is that he actually elevates like regular day-by-day stuff into just making you think, what does that represent? Here is like that he plays the saxo is you don't care too much. Sure, you can play whatever.
An excuse for him to get out of the house and call her. That's about it.
Yeah, or that Peter is a mechanic. He's just trying to fix something as he's fixing his marriage. I don't know. They can stretch it out, but I don't think that there is like the same level of depth that that we would see in Mulholland Drive. But in any case, it's still aesthetically or artistically is extremely pleasing. Is it a timeless piece?
I'm struggling with this because like the technology was just kind of blowing up. I hate saying it that way, but like there's a handheld TV in it, there's a cell phone, there's a projector, like, and as I said, it really shocked me because usually David Lynch's films, everything is timeless, like 100%. And this felt like, okay, you're like rooting yourself into this late 90s sort of, hey, cell phones are here, let's figure out how to use them. So I'm gonna say timely.
Okay, no, interesting. So for me, I'm a bit torn because more than the technology, that is, like, I'm fine with it. I think that, for example, like the phone is there for just having that, like, call me at your house. That is a cool scene, but it's just for creating the kind of discomfort, the kind of, I don't know, like feeling that there is something wrong. But I think that from that point, I mean, they could have done it with just from a regular, like, you know, like phone. So I didn't feel like it was like abuse of it, you know. It felt like the message was a bit more like transcendental, you know, the story itself. But the part that was a bit weird, as I was mentioning, was like the soundtrack. The soundtrack felt super 90s, like, yeah, so as 90s as it gets. And adding Marilyn Manson there is that there is this point of, I'm dreaming this. That's not Marilyn Manson, and it actually is. And is that that's just surreal that a director like David Lynch, he would actually just go out of his way for just talking with Marilyn Manson and adding him there.
And that's a great point that we recognized and saw Marilyn Manson, but somebody who wasn't super up on pop culture in the 90s will never get that detail, and that's the stuff that I feel makes it timely.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to go with that. I'm going to go with, like, maybe they have used a bit of technology because he was like a bit more obsessed around it at the time. Mulholland Drive doesn't have anything about technology or anything critical, I don't know, like built on technology. And then the soundtrack, it's, I don't know, this feels like a movie that is like, this is severely rooted in the 90s.
That's an excellent way to put it.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that that's bad, but it's weird because, you know, like Blue Velvet feels like a movie that it could take place in the 40s.
Or the 70s.
Or the 70s, or the 2000s, is that there is nothing that is like just rooted on a specific time. And this one is like, no one will behave in this way. Mulholland Drive is like completely detached from time too.
Yep, it is.
So, not saying that that's bad per se, but it's weird. Would you turn this into a TV show?
No. Nope.
Okay, I would say yes, but I'm cheating because that would be Mulholland Drive.
Okay.
I'm cheating because it's like he actually did this, and it's like I'm going to be like making it a TV show, and it's going to be Mulholland Drive. So he answered that question for us. Do you think that is
a question for us when they said no, thank you?
That's true. Do you think that this movie could have been better?
Yeah, I think it's a little too out there for me. There are a number of things I would change, maybe just like a polishing of the script, but like how can you expect, like you have to crawl before you can walk, right? So I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah, I mean the problem, that's exactly that. That is like when we compare with Mulholland Drive, we already know a superior version of this.
Yes.
So it's like, yeah, of course,
so,
it could have
yes,
been better.
I would make it better by turning this into Mulholland.
Exactly. You know, that's the way of making it better, and he already told us how he could make it better. You know, can you think of any other movie that is like similar to this, that the director tried to do like the same thing twice?
I mean, with the same sort of like metaphorical characters and dreams and...
Yeah, like using the same leitmotif or the same kind of vehicles, narrative vehicles. Because you can think about like Haneke, about like, yeah, he has the same topics, but they are like different stories.
I mean, my mind immediately went to Funny Games. But Austrian and American versions,
But that's a remake.
Yeah. No, I can't think of another director like this now.
No. I don't know when right now what popped up in my mind was Baz Luhrmann, but probably not. No, so that's
I can think, and I've mentioned this many times, is that I think David Lynch was heavily inspired by a couple of Ingmar Bergman films, where he gets these super crazy zany characters that do these bizarre things just out of nowhere, and there's never any explanation, like that maybe, but no, there's nobody like David Lynch.
Yeah, but not even himself did that. I mean, I don't know if, well, you said that Inland Empire is like also like pretty metaphorical, but even more out there.
Yeah, like maybe not more metaphorical, just makes way less sense.
Okay, that makes sense. So before we rate, I don't know if you remember that last week I asked you about like remembering a movie. So do you have any pick or any question that any movie that you would like to see, if I remember?
I sure do. I would like to hear how much of the plot you remember about Beach Rat.
That's a very interesting question because you know that's the episode that we lost.
Oh, what a pity. But
yeah,
you can still give me a summary.
That's a really good question because I don't remember almost anything about that. I remember that they are like just young kids, that one of them, he's gay, they are like they go to the beach like almost every single day. Was this on Venice Beach?
I think it's back east. I think it's like, isn't it like Coney Island or something? It's like Boston or something.
Yeah, maybe that. And now I started to just think, and I started to mixing it up with Gomorrah.
The answer is no, you don't remember.
I don't, honestly. And besides that, that's a pretty, I don't know. That was cheap. That movie was never recorded. We lost the recording.
That's fair. Although, fun fact, the star of that, who played a very convincing, like, again, I think it's East Coast kid, American, who starts to hook up with guys online at the same time he's finding a girlfriend for the summer, and he's closeted, completely closeted. He's actually British, and he is the star of The King's Man.
What?
The one that just came out.
Oh, gotcha. Yeah. I remember like the other. Who was the keys on the other two?
What is his name? Taron. He just played Elton John in that like musical.
Yep, that one. Yeah. That was Taron Egerton.
That's the one. Yep.
Okay, that was a low hit, dude. It's that we didn't even record it. You know, that people cannot go back and say that, oh, that was the movie about. He said you just gave like, you know.
Wikipedia page. It's fine. There's synopses out there.
Yeah. I mean, it's even interesting because at that time we were not saying what we're going to be like watching next, so there is no even like proof. Until this second, there was no proof that we lost an episode.
You're welcome, listeners. Behind the scenes drama
happening live. Okay, so should we score Lost Highway?
Yes.
All right, I already wrote down my score, and this was my pick. What is your score?
6.5.
6.5. Okay, yeah. Mine is a 7.5.
Interesting.
Yeah. So for you, is that just decent?
So, again, 5 for me is a perfectly mediocre movie. There are things that elevate this for me. As always, it's a David Lynch film is just more interesting. And there's little like hints about what's to come. So it's slightly elevated for me, but I wouldn't go so far as to call this a good movie.
Wow. Okay. Now, for me, it's beyond being a good movie. This is like a special movie. The only problem is like it lives at the shadow of something that is significantly better than this.
Yep.
So it's like it may feel a bit like work, but I still think that it's a very interesting cinematography exercise. So that's cool. You know, I think that is like the first time that I see like Lynch going like this metaphorical, and it's like he went even farther, you know. But it's like it's a nice movie. So
I think we mostly agree. We just scored things a little bit differently, and you like this just a bit more than me.
Yeah, Yeah, but it's funny because while I heard we gave it both of us a 5.5.
I'm gonna go rewatch that tonight.
Okay, if that's what you need. So what are we watching next? That is your pick.
We are going to do a documentary, which we rarely do. It's an animated documentary about a gay Afghan who flees Afghanistan, and then they illustrate his life. So it's Flee, F-L-E-E, not F-L-E-A.
Yeah, and it is right now in cinemas, and as we don't have like too much buffer, this will probably go out in 2 weeks, so it may even still be out in cinemas.
Fingers crossed. And I'm guessing you'll be able to stream it sometime soon.
Well, that's true, yeah. Now everything is like 2 weeks later on home, so that's fine. And to all those people out there, thank you so much for putting with us.
Just keep washing your hands, guys. Keep washing.
Yeah, this is not Omicron related. Don't be
It's
a
not over. It's not over.
Yeah. Okay, bye.